My name is Carolyn He, and along with my partner Christine, we are honored to present our non-trivial project, Mitigating Academic Paper Consumption via Digital Curricula, a student-centered approach.
The average high school uses 25 million sheets of paper each year, which is about 125 tons of paper, equating to 76,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions. The Reflective Educator estimates that U.S. educators use over 47 billion sheets of paper annually, making education one of the biggest consumers of the paper industry, which is already the fourth largest contributor to greenhouse gases in America. While from an effective altruism standpoint, climate change is not likely to directly cause a situation where the potential of humanity is irreversibly destroyed or harmed, global warming still contributes to existential risk. The rising water levels, increase in natural disasters, and destruction of ecosystems brought by climate change result in poverty and international conflict, blatantly disregarding our ethical responsibility to future generations and increasing humanity's vulnerability to other issues that have the potential to end civilization. Although a lot of money has been poured into research for global warming, I would still argue that the facet that our project addresses, paper consumption, specifically in education, is neglected, as compared to other aspects of climate change, such as carbon emissions from coal and fossil fuels, especially as paper production is predicted to increase in coming years, according to sources such as the International Energy Agency.
Within this environmental issue lies a further barrier to combating irresponsible paper consumption, and activism anxiety that may inhibit youth from fully participating in environmental activism. And while some youth are undeniably passionate, others may feel disengaged from these issues, whether stemming from a lack of resources, motivation, mentorship, or opportunities for local environmental research. Activism anxiety is evidently a significant issue, particularly because students are positioned as the most promising combatants of irresponsible paper consumption where it remains a pressing reality. Thus, our approach was to narrow our field of focus for the most meaningful impact. As I just covered, irresponsible paper consumption in schools is an issue and it will remain one unless otherwise addressed. Even with technological substitutes and more energy efficient or environmentally friendly means of paper production, schools are still consuming exorbitant amounts of paper, equivalent to even pre-pandemic levels. And that was another focus of our project, to leverage our personal experience and mold this project to replicate independent studies I conducted at my own school, which, not to spoil how yet, prompted my school to reevaluate its paper consumption and implement more sustainable consumption practices. Our paper consumption program leverages a student-centered approach to address academic paper waste as well as facilitate the educational, social, and personal growth of students as environmental advocates. Participants in the paper consumption program are not only introduced to school-based research, but also the analysis of large-scale data through fundamental machine learning and statistical analysis techniques, real-world presentation and public speaking skills, and critical community outreach tactics to raise awareness on sustainable paper consumption. Upon completion of the program, students create a customized paper budgeting plan for their schools based on data they've collected through their school-based research, thereby helping their schools better gauge their paper consumption and take steps to mitigate extraneous usage.
This culminated into a 150-plus page curriculum, which is currently being administered at the website below. Although we have plans for future expansion. As shown in Figure 3, the curriculum consists of 15 lessons split up into 3 modules, ranging in content from SDG 12 to conducting a school-wide census.
Throughout the program, students also engage with interactive features, quizzes, videos, etc. to ensure maximum retention of content. Once we start the piloting process, we'll also be collecting feedback from students on how they want to see information being further conveyed. Over here, I have a quick example of what our UI looks like. And keep in mind that this is only one micro lesson within a lesson and that there are 15 total lessons and 115 total pages of this curriculum. In terms of executing our project, we found that using education, school involvement, and citizen science really worked seamlessly in forming a network of climate advocacy. And as for our digital approach, we found that this was optimal both in the short term and as students and also in the long term, in addition to helping us establish more ethos. From a broader lens, this paper consumption program equips students with so much background knowledge and also helps them recognize their agency for impact through 1, conducting school-based research, and 2, enacting real change. Next, also proactively addresses a lull in the field, as very rarely is resource use in high schools brought up when considering climate change or even sustainability. And finally, this serves as the very first nationwide paper consumption research study in American schools, as the data collected by students in the program will be used for broader analysis of the specific factors that contribute to extensive paper usage. And therefore, this presents a huge potential to influence exactly how schools allocate funding towards resources and how they perceive their resource consumption as a whole. Our aim is, how do we encourage schools to reevaluate their paper usage, not only support them in pivoting usage to more sustainable options. Here are also a few limitations we considered when developing our solutions, but we have also thought about a lot of workarounds to these potential challenges and are confident that with enough monetary support, wink wink nudge nudge, and adequate exposure, we can resolve them. And on this side, we have a few of our future plans for our program. So one, obviously, would be to pilot the program and see how students react to the content and therefore make changes based on their feedback. Next would also be to amend our UI. As I mentioned before, our UI is currently in development and we hope to eventually launch that in the future along with additional features such as one-on-one meetings and peer-to-peer communication channels. Of course, piloting will have to come after that as well, along with additional rounds of feedback which will help us refine and adapt the program. And finally, we hope to fully deploy the program on the web, and then we'll pivot then to mobile development. Scalability also involves looking at other areas where this can be applied, such as plastic, or looking at other forms of paper usage like textbooks, toilet paper, hand towels, napkins, etc., as well as expanding the range of our programs, such as those focused on paper reduction and paper recycling, as well as providing concrete actions for schools to minimize consumption, not only providing them with a smaller budget, but ideas for digital transformation. And of course, we'll continue revising and improving based on a ton of piloting feedback. To make a long story short, we hope to leverage funding from non-trivial to 1. Bring the paper consumption program to mainstream audiences, students, schools, etc., to host an all-in-one mobile-based platform for our wider distribution to our target consumer base, as I mentioned in the last slide, and 3, eventually provide monetary support to program ambassadors in development and deployment of strategy and implementation plans. Thank you so much for listening.